Hi, I'm Jeff Brown, and I'll introduce myself in just a moment, but first, I want to show you what I just got in the mail. Elon Musk has been producing about 15,000 of these strange devices every single day and shipping them, not just across America, but around the world. Even the White House recently installed this technology. This is becoming so popular that I predict this technology is going to help Elon build his next trillion-dollar business, launch the biggest IPO of the decade, and make a lot of people rich in the process. Now, unfortunately, most people will be left out because they don't know how to claim a stake in this private venture. But today, I'm going to show you how to claim your share before it goes public, without having connections in Silicon Valley, without having to be an accredited investor, and without having to be rich. In fact, you can get started with as little as just $500 right from your computer. I believe if you claim your stake today when the company goes public, which I believe will happen within the next 12 months, you could cash out with the biggest payout of your life. You see, this is a very rare opportunity to claim a stake in Elon Musk's fastest growing private venture. Last year alone, they doubled the number of customers. That's growth of 100%, and that's extremely rare. But wherever you see a company doubling its revenue in a single year, you need to stop and pay close attention, because history shows that it can be followed by massive transformational gains big enough to fund an entire retirement. For example, in early 2001, NVIDIA reported growth of almost 100% in sales. It had just developed the world's first GPU called GeForce 256. It was a major leap in chip technology and set NVIDIA on a path to dominate the GPU market, which are the chips that today power artificial intelligence. And had you invested $1,000 in NVIDIA at that time, you could have turned that small stake into as much as $750,000. Just think about that. For most Americans, $750,000 is an entire nest egg, and all of that from just one stock, starting with a tiny stake of just $1,000. That's the power of investing in a company that's growing at warp speed. You see, if a company doubles its sales in a single year, it means they just developed a truly revolutionary product or service. Look at Amazon, for example. In 1997, it was just an online bookstore, but that year it introduced the one-click ordering system, allowing users to buy their products with a single press of a button. And today, of course, we take that for granted. But that technology improved the online shopping experience in a way that was revolutionary at the time. And as a result, sales exploded by more than 100% that year. Now, had you invested $1,000 at the end of 1997, when it registered that incredible growth, you could have turned that small stake into almost $1 million. Or look at Netflix. In 2004, when it was still just shipping DVDs, it improved its proprietary algorithm that recommends movies to its customers. And as a result, sales almost doubled that year. And shares went on to explode high enough to turn $1,000 into as much as $567,000. Elon Musk is no stranger to this type of triple-digit growth in sales. In 2012, Tesla introduced its all-electric luxury sedan, Tesla Model S, which redefined what an electric vehicle could do. It turned the car industry upside down and set Tesla on a path to become more valuable than all 42 other car makers combined at its peak. With a new revolutionary car, sales more than doubled in 2012, and had you invested $1,000 back then, it could have grown to as much as $216,000. Now, of course, there's no guarantee we'll see gains this high, but I believe history is repeating itself with this private venture, thanks to this revolutionary device that I just showed you. Sales have already doubled last year, but I believe this is just the beginning. Like I mentioned before, they're producing 15,000 of these devices every single day, and many folks who are getting their hands on this device are raving online. Now, I've used this myself, both on the ground and on an airplane, and I can tell you it is truly amazing. This tech is so revolutionary that I believe soon the US government will funnel more than $100 billion into this venture, sending its valuation soaring to new highs. And that's why I'm recording this video. I want you to claim your stake before that happens, and before Elon files all the IPO paperwork, which could happen at any moment. So what exactly is this device, and why is it becoming so popular in both America and around the world? And more importantly, how can you get a stake in this private venture before it goes public in what could be the biggest IPO of the decade? I'm about to answer all of these questions and show you exactly how you can partner with Elon Musk on this exciting new venture starting with just $500. But before we get to all of that, let me introduce myself. Hi, like I said before, my name is Jeff Brown, and I'm a former senior executive of 3 major public tech companies, Qualcomm, NXP Semiconductors, and Juniper Networks. 3 firms that now generate more than $50 billion in annual sales. And I'm also an angel investor who's invested in hundreds of deals involving private companies, with returns as high as 5,344%, 7,367%, and even a mind-blowing 11,011%. And because of my tech expertise, I've advised senior officials at the Department of Commerce, policymakers, members of the National Institutes of Standard and Technology, and the Defense Intelligence Agency. And all that experience has given me the ability to see big tech trends before most people catch on. For example, in June 2015, when most people thought Bitcoin was a scam, I published this write-up on cryptocurrencies encouraging people to buy Bitcoin. It was trading for just $240. And anyone who listened to me and held on had a chance to turn $1,000 into more than $450,000. The following year, in February 2016, when almost nobody was talking about artificial intelligence, I picked NVIDIA as one of my favorite stocks. And most people thought it was just a gaming company. But my research explained how it was one of the most important companies enabling AI and machine learning. And today, it's probably the most popular stock in the world. And shares have jumped by more than 22,000%. Now that's enough to turn $1,000 into more than $222,000. And in 2018, I made another controversial prediction. At that time, the media was calling Elon Musk a fraud, and Wall Street analysts were predicting Tesla was about to crash. Virtually everyone thought shares of Tesla were overpriced because they were analyzing it as a car company. But I actually recommended it to my readers because I had a different view. Here's what I wrote. When I think about Tesla, I see one of the leading artificial intelligence companies in the world. This is the incredible part that most people don't see or understand. Tesla designed a software AI platform designed to operate cars. Now, I remember it was one of the most hated and controversial recommendations that I had ever made to my readers. And some people wrote to me saying that there was no way in hell that they would buy that stock. But those who listened to me and held on had a chance to turn $1,000 into up to $22,500. Now, of course, these are some of my best picks, and if you missed out on all those gains, you now have an opportunity of a lifetime, a chance to partner with Elon Musk before he takes his company public in what I believe will be the biggest IPO of the decade. And it's all thanks to the device that I showed you earlier. This is actually a unique type of space technology, and I predict it will be the biggest internet innovation since the first commercial web browser, Netscape Navigator, kicked off the internet boom in the late 1990s. But before I tell you exactly how this technology works and why it's such a game changer, I need to give you some context because very few people understand the true scale of this opportunity. The first thing that you need to know is that this device is part of Elon Musk's space exploration company, SpaceX. And what Elon is doing in space is truly revolutionary. You see, launching an object into Earth's orbit has always been extremely expensive because you could only use the rocket one time. I mean, just imagine if we had to scrap every commercial airplane after a single flight and replace it with a new one. Air travel would be a luxury reserved for billionaires only, with ticket prices probably reaching tens of millions of dollars to cover the huge costs of disposable airplanes. And until recently, that was the reality of space exploration. Traditional rockets were used once and then discarded. They'd just fall into the ocean or burn up in the atmosphere or just be thrown out into space. And for that reason, each mission would require an entirely new rocket, which is why the costs were astronomical. But then everything began to change in 2001 when Elon Musk joined the Mars Society and began to research how he could bring down the cost of space exploration. That's when he had a crazy idea. What if, instead of using a disposable and very expensive rocket in every single launch, we could develop a reusable rocket that could go to orbit and come down to Earth? And so he took the $100 million fortune that he made in PayPal and started a new space exploration company called SpaceX, with the main goal of developing a reusable rocket. Now, most people thought it was just a pipe dream. So-called experts told him it was just science fiction and that it would never happen. They laughed at him. Well, nobody is laughing now because Elon Musk has done what many people thought was absolutely impossible. He invented reusable rockets. So now, instead of building new rockets for every single mission, SpaceX is able to reuse their rockets, dramatically reducing the cost of space exploration. It's estimated that SpaceX has cut the cost of launching payloads into orbit by more than 90%, and that is where the big opportunity comes in. With costs of rocket launches coming down so dramatically, a few years ago, Elon Musk began to use these rockets to send SOFA-sized satellites into orbit. And not just a few satellites, but thousands of them. As the New York Times says, SpaceX's rockets return to Earth after a trip to space and are partially reusable. This effectively gave Elon Musk control of an express train to constantly deliver satellites to space. And as you can see here, from 1965 to the early 2010s, there was essentially no growth in man-made objects launched into space. And then Elon Musk entered the industry and boom, the number of launches went parabolic. That's how Elon built a network of satellites that we all know as Starlink. These satellites communicate with terminals on Earth so they can beam high-speed internet to nearly every corner of the planet. And today, Starlink has more than 7,000 low Earth orbit satellites providing service to 118 countries and territories. There are so many in orbit that they are often mistaken for shooting stars. And the company continues to add about 60 new satellites every single week. And I believe soon that pace will accelerate. You see, SpaceX continues to innovate. And like I just mentioned, they've already cut the cost of launching a rocket by more than 90% with its reusable rockets. But now they're working on what they call a rapid reuse rocket system. Soon, SpaceX will be able to relaunch these rockets from the same pad within hours of catching them, which will cut the cost even more. And when all is said and done, the cost of launching rockets to space will have dropped by 100-fold. Now that has huge implications because it means very soon SpaceX will be able to launch even more satellites into space. Now, here's why that's a big deal. According to data from the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, Starlink is already available to 99.7% of U.S. households. Now that's the highest coverage percentage of any internet provider, satellite or land-based. But remember, we're talking about internet service from space. This internet doesn't require fiber optic cables or cellular towers or cable TV cables, which means there are no physical limitations. While other carriers are limited by traditional ground infrastructure, SpaceX literally has no limits. With enough satellites in orbit, it could soon offer internet services to the entire planet, which is something that no other internet provider can do. The bottom line is the US market is just the beginning. And that's part of this story that most people still don't understand. What Elon Musk is building here is not just another internet provider. He's building the first worldwide communications carrier. As Elon Musk predicted, everywhere on Earth will have high bandwidth, low latency internet. And that's the main reason why I believe this could be the biggest IPO of the decade. And if you claim your stake today, when the company finally goes public, which I believe will happen within the next 12 months, you could cash out with the biggest payout of your life. Like I mentioned before, Starlink already has about 7,000 satellites in orbit. It's estimated that it will need at least 10,000 satellites in orbit before it can claim to offer full service to most of the globe. Well, at the pace of current new satellite launches, the company will get to those 10,000 satellites in less than 12 months. And that means by next year, the Starlink network could be covering the entire planet. And here's something else to consider. The high number of satellites should not only increase coverage areas, but also improve service speed. Starlink Internet already offers more bandwidth and internet speed than any other provider on the market. And it's still a little more expensive than landline internet, but remember, the cost of launching payloads into Earth's orbit is still coming down. And with the Starship, it could be cut by another 90% or more when all is said and done. Now, that's why I believe soon the Starlink internet service will not only be more powerful, but also cheaper than any other provider. In fact, we're already seeing huge price drops. The price of this ultra-portable Starlink mini dish has recently dropped by almost 40%. So here's the bottom line. Today, Starlink internet is used mainly by the military and in rural areas where cellular networks do not reach. But this audience is just the beginning. Starlink is quickly becoming the first worldwide communications carrier. As Forbes says, the company is poised to disrupt traditional telecom markets and expand into new territories. Imagine an internet service company that can guarantee fast, reliable connectivity anywhere around the world at an affordable price. No more dead zones for your cell phone. That's the future of Starlink. It's why Forbes also wrote that the Starlink network could be attractive to billions of people worldwide. Starlink's story is just the beginning, and by claiming your stake today, you'd really be getting in on the ground floor of what could become the biggest internet provider in the world. Now remember, today, Starlink has 5 million users, but it is already available in 118 countries. And with 60 new satellites going into orbit every week, it has a lot of capacity to expand. And that means there's potential to go after all the 5.5 billion internet users worldwide. Now, even if SpaceX captures only 1% of that pie, that would be enough to trigger a 1,000% growth in the business. If it captures 10%, which I believe is far more likely, we're talking about a growth of more than 10,000%. Now, can you see now why I believe a lot of people will get rich from this? In just a moment, I'll show you how to claim your stake. But first, I want you to understand that this story gets even better because Elon Musk has virtually no competitors. In 2024, SpaceX accounted for 84% of all satellites launched into orbit. And Elon Musk believes by 2026, SpaceX will account for 99% of Earth's payload to orbit. And I believe he's right. With its reusable rockets and lowest cost of launching payloads into orbit, nobody can compete with SpaceX. Look at Jeff Bezos and his space exploration company, Blue Origin. In theory, that could be SpaceX's main competitor. It even built their own reusable rocket. It was originally scheduled to launch in 2020, but engineering challenges caused years of delay. And they finally launched their first mission earlier this year. It was just a test mission. And while the rocket hit orbit, its reusable first stage booster failed to make the landing back on Earth. Now, they've been working on this for 5 years and they failed. And as you can probably imagine, it's not easy to figure out how to launch a 6,700-ton rocket the size of a 20-story building into orbit and bring it back to Earth with a successful landing. I mean, when these things re-enter from orbit, they're dropping at a speed of more than 17,000 miles per hour. It's a very difficult engineering problem to solve, but that's something SpaceX does on a weekly basis. Bloomberg recently reported that Jeff Bezos' company has grappled with development delays, a sluggish corporate culture, and explosive setbacks. They even announced recently that they're cutting 10% of their workforce. Now, SpaceX is so far ahead that competitors have no chance of ever catching up. And that's why Reuters called SpaceX an emergent monopoly. And that's a big deal because some of the biggest gains in the stock market have come from companies that were so dominant that they become virtual monopolies. Look at Uber, for example. It completely revolutionized the taxi industry with its ride-sharing app. Today, despite facing competitors like Lyft, Uber still dominates 74% of the US market, making it a virtual monopoly. And that's why it produced mind-blowing returns. The lucky private investors who got into Uber in one of its early rounds in 2012 had a chance to turn $1,000 into almost $500,000. And it's the same story with Facebook. Before it went public, it had an 80% market share of the social media market. And with such a dominant position, private investors who got into Facebook in one of its early funding rounds in 2005 had a chance to turn $1,000 into more than $3 million. Or look at Microsoft. In the late 1980s, it dominated the market for PC software with a 90% market share. And anyone who invested $1,000 in the company when it released its first version of Windows in 1985 would be sitting on more than $7.6 million today. NVIDIA is also a great example of a company that became so dominant that it can be considered a virtual monopoly. It controls an estimated 90% of the market for AI chips. As a result, shares have jumped as high as 32,000% over the past decade, enough to turn $1,000 into almost $325,000. Now, of course, I can't promise you'll make millions like some of the examples I just showed you. The type of gains that you could see all depends on the size of your investment. But can you see the power of having a dominant technology? Warren Buffett has said many times that the best investments are companies that build competitive barriers. He said, a good business is like a strong castle with a deep moat around it. I want sharks in the moat to keep away those who would encroach on the castle. That's exactly what SpaceX has built with its reusable rocket and expanding constellation of low Earth orbit satellites. Today, it's almost impossible for any company to compete with SpaceX. So when you claim your stake today, you'll be owning a piece of what could be America's next virtual monopoly. As if all of this wasn't enough, the story, it gets even better because SpaceX could soon receive billions from the US government. You see, the US government has a $42 billion grant program to bring high-speed internet service to rural and poor areas of the country. And until very recently, the Commerce Department gave preference to fiber optic services. But they recently changed their rule, opening the door for Starlink to tap into that $42 billion program. And thanks to the close relationship between Elon and the Trump administration, I have no doubt Starlink will get some of that money. I mean, the US government has already started to adopt Starlink. The White House is already using its satellite internet. This technology was also set up at the General Services Administration, which has served as a hub for Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. Elon also just sent 4,000 Starlink terminals to the Federal Aviation Administration to help them upgrade their aging air traffic control system. The Department of Homeland Security is planning to use Starlink to help monitor the US border as well. The US Army is using it for critical encrypted communication, and the Navy has been testing out Starlink on its warships. And it's not just internet services. Thanks to this amazing technology, SpaceX has a very long history of providing services for the US government, even before Trump took power. SpaceX was already one of the nation's largest federal contractors, with $3.8 billion in commitments in 2024 spread over 344 different contracts. And now that Elon Musk is working closely with the Trump administration, it's likely the relationship between SpaceX and the US government will intensify. As the New York Times says, SpaceX is positioning itself to see billions of dollars in new federal contracts. Now, I'm sure all the Elon Musk haters will say that's not fair, and they'll say he's only getting these contracts because of his friendship with the president. But like I showed you earlier, SpaceX simply has the best technology by far. And when you're handing out contracts for complex things like space exploration or secure communications for our military, wouldn't you want the most competent company to handle it? Now, of course you would. And that's why I'm expecting SpaceX to continue to win billions in new contracts. For example, the Department of Defense is already planning to use Elon's rockets to move military cargo rapidly around the globe. Now, I'm talking about moving 100 tons of cargo per flight to any point on the planet very quickly, in a matter of hours. Now, only SpaceX rockets have the power and the size to handle that. And that's not all. The Pentagon's missile defense project, called the Golden Dome, could be an even bigger jackpot for SpaceX. President Trump has ordered the Pentagon to rapidly figure out how to shoot down nuclear missiles headed for the United States, similar to Israel's Iron Dome. And according to one estimate, that project could cost $100 billion annually. And guess which company is perfectly positioned for that kind of work? Yes, SpaceX. As the New York Times says, industry observers say SpaceX would almost certainly secure a large share of this lucrative new work. And let's not forget Elon Musk's dream of landing men on Mars. In his inaugural speech, President Trump promised, "We will lead the world in space and reach Mars before the end of my term." Elon is already planning his first uncrewed Starship missions to Mars in 2026. That's next year. If everything goes according to plan, he's targeting crewed missions by 2030. Just think about that. In just 5 years, we could be sending humans to Mars. NASA is already planning to use SpaceX rockets for its 2027 Artemis 3 mission, which will be the first crewed trip to the moon in over half a century. So I have no doubt NASA will award those Mars contracts to SpaceX as well. Can you see why this is such a no-brainer investment? Think about everything that I told you so far. With all the SpaceX innovations, the cost of launching satellites into orbit could be cut by 100-fold, allowing Elon to launch more satellites and soon build a network big enough to cover the entire planet. This will be the world's first global internet carrier, which is why I believe it will be his next trillion-dollar business. And on top of that, Elon has no competitors, as SpaceX is set to receive billions from the US government in new contracts. Now, if you can't see how big of an opportunity this is, I just don't know what else to tell you. In fact, this opportunity is so explosive that it would normally be reserved for rich people with connections in Silicon Valley. But I found a way for you to claim a stake in SpaceX starting with as little as $500. Just imagine when your friends and family begin to use this new satellite internet. Imagine telling them you own a piece of it. And when SpaceX starts to make headlines because it landed astronauts on the moon again, imagine telling everyone that you own a piece of that too. And imagine telling everyone you got in before the IPO. Now, that's why I'm here today. I'll show you how to get started in just a moment. But first, I just want to emphasize something that's super important. You're going to have to act fast because Elon Musk could file the IPO paperwork at any moment now. You see, back in 2020, Elon Musk posted this message on social media saying, "We will probably IPO Starlink when revenue growth is smooth and predictable. Public market does not like erratic cash flow." Now, that was almost 5 years ago. At that time, the company had no revenue. But like I mentioned before, Starlink is now Elon's fastest growing private venture. And last year, they doubled their sales. And now 80% of Starlink's income is coming from recurring revenue. That's $6.5 billion of the kind of smooth and predictable cash flow Elon Musk said he wanted to see before an IPO. After doubling sales last year, Morgan Stanley estimates sales in 2025 will grow another 74%. So I'd say the conditions have now been met for that IPO to proceed. In fact, Elon Musk's team of lawyers could be drafting all the paperwork as we speak, and he could file that with the SEC at any moment now. Now, of course, only Elon Musk knows for sure when they will file that paperwork, but my research tells me It could happen at any moment. So I highly recommend that you claim your stake before that happens, because if you wait until it's on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, the valuation of the company will be a lot higher and you'll have missed out on the chance to make the biggest possible gains. That's why I just put all the details of this opportunity inside a special report called The Biggest IPO of the Decade: How to Claim Your Stake in SpaceX. And inside, I'll tell you exactly what you need to do. I'll show you the website you need to go to and walk you step by step through the process. And I promise you, this is as easy as buying any other stock. And you can get started with as little as $500. So, how can you claim this report? Well, I actually want to give you this report completely free of charge. All I ask in return is that you try out my monthly research service called the Near Future Report for the next 60 days. At absolutely no risk to you. The Near Future Report is where I publish my best investment ideas every month, and I call it Near Future because the future is coming much, much faster than we think. Technology is moving so fast that it's really hard for most to keep up. And I'm sure you've noticed it. By the time we hear about it from the mainstream media, it's already too late. Shares have already popped, and the big money has been made. So in the pages of the Near Future Report, I focus on identifying and profiting from big trends on the verge of mass adoption before they become breaking news on mainstream media, just like I did with Tesla, with Bitcoin, and with Nvidia. Now, aside from showing you early stage trends and giving you a chance to get ahead of everyone else, in the pages of the Near Future Report, I'll also help you navigate the ups and downs of the stock market. For example, on March 17, 2020, amidst peak pandemic hysteria, I sent an urgent video to my readers and made a bold call. Now, we actually have a clip of that. Let me play it for you.
Things are absolutely going to get better. Probably the best opportunity to make investments over the course of the next decade.
3 days later, the stock market began a historic bounce back. And since then, the S&P has more than doubled. But some of my picks from my model portfolio, they jumped much higher. And if you had held on past their original recommendations and sold at their peak, you could have made as much as 2,899% in Nvidia. Arista Networks as much as 769%. Palo Alto Networks, 679%. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, 315%. These were all market-beating gains, and it's the types of results that I expect in the Near Future Report. Now remember, you can try it for the next 60 days at no risk to you, and when you do, I'll immediately send you the special report, The Biggest IPO of the Decade: How to Claim Your Stake in SpaceX. And normally, a one-year membership to the Near Future Report costs $499. But because time is of the essence here, I'm going to give you a huge discount. Now, I don't want the price to be an issue. The most important thing is that you get into this play now, before Elon Musk files the IPO paperwork with the SEC. But before I give you the details on this discount, I'd like to tell you about another Elon Musk opportunity that I'm excited about. You see, according to the CEO of NVIDIA, the next frontier of AI is physical AI. He said the ChatGPT moment for general robotics is just around the corner. And Elon Musk is set to dominate that next frontier. During an event in California in 2024, he revealed the latest version of his humanoid robot called Optimus. And in case you haven't seen the videos that went viral, here's a short clip.
So, and what can it do? It'll basically do anything you want. So it can be a teacher, babysit your kids, it can walk your dog, mow your lawn, get the groceries, just be your friend, serve drinks, whatever you can think of.
Elon predicted that in the future, everyone will want to own one of these Tesla robots. He's even gone so far as to say that at some point in the future, there will be more humanoid robots on Earth than there are humans. He believes it will become the biggest product ever of any kind. Now, according to Goldman Sachs, it could become the next must-have device, just like smartphones. So let's say these robots are sold for around $25,000 each, which actually is the target price. I estimate there is a market demand for at least 1 billion humanoid robots in the world. That is a $25 trillion market. The company or companies that dominate this market will be worth trillions. And that's why I'm extremely bullish on Tesla right now. They are leading the way. But aside from Tesla, I'm also recommending shares of another smaller Elon Musk supplier. This little-known company is already supplying Tesla with a key piece of sensor technology. So I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up supplying Optimus with those sensors as well. In fact, Morgan Stanley just recommended this stock as one of the key ways to play this robotics trend, and they are not alone. While most people are in the dark, a total of 39 hedge funds are invested in this little-known stock, and I don't want you to be left out, which is why I put all the details inside another bonus report called How to Profit from Elon Musk's Robotics Revolution. Now, this report will also be yours at no additional charge the moment that you join the Near Future Report. Now, I also want to give you access to another report called How to Profit from the Next NVIDIA. You see, today's AI chips are almost entirely made by NVIDIA. It's estimated that it controls 80% of the entire market. Now, it's a big reason why shares of NVIDIA have skyrocketed by more than 23,000% since I first recommended it. In fact, the most important and widely used AI chip in the world today is NVIDIA's A100 GPU. Well, I found a company that has just developed an AI chip that's even more powerful than that. It has 50 times the computing power of the NVIDIA H100 chip. And researchers at the Los Alamos National Laboratory recently tested this new chip, and they were shocked. It performed 179 times faster than the world's most powerful supercomputer. Now, that's why I believe this company's chips will help power all the next big AI innovations coming in the near future. And I put all the details, including the name and ticker symbol, in another report called How to Profit from the Next NVIDIA. It's also yours the moment that you take this risk-free membership to the Near Future Report. So here's the deal. Like I mentioned earlier, the normal price for a one-year membership is $499. But today, you'll get a huge discount. You can begin your risk-free membership for just $199. And remember, I'm not even asking for any type of long-term commitment. You can just try it out and decide later if it's right for you. I'll give you 60 days to test out the service at no risk at all. And if during that period you find that you're not getting the best tech investing research that you've ever seen, or for any reason at all, you can simply call our customer service team and cancel your membership. We'll give you a full refund on your order, no questions asked. And we'll let you keep everything you received as a member at no charge. That's right. You can keep all the issues. You can keep all the special reports that you see on your screen, the biggest IPO of the decade, how to claim your stake in SpaceX, how to profit from Elon Musk's robotics revolution, how to profit from the next NVIDIA. You can keep everything. This means that there's no risk to you at all for this offer. Now, to get started, simply click on the button below. You'll be taken to another page where you can review everything one last time. Look, if you're still not sure the Near Future Report is right for you, let me share a few emails that I got from my readers, and maybe it'll help you decide. Tim says, Jeff, I've been investing and working in the technology industry since 1985. Your insight and experience is easily the best I've ever read. I am in my first year with you and have made good money with your recommendations. Thank you. Ruan says, I've been a loyal subscriber for some time now and greatly admire and appreciate the work that you do to bring us readers such quality recommendations. Your newsletters are well worth their weight in gold. And Leonard says, just wanted you all to know that this is the most trustworthy news and picks I ever came across. Hands down, my portfolio is nothing now but Jeff's picks, and I'm very pleased with how they are performing. The best newsletter published, period. Keep up the great work. Now, you could be the next success story. So please, click on that button to get started. And just keep in mind that all investments carry risk, and past performance does not guarantee future success. Look, the lucky investors who were able to get into Elon Musk companies while they were still private hit the jackpot. Like I showed you earlier, the conditions have now been met for that Starlink IPO to proceed. Elon Musk's team of lawyers could be drafting all the paperwork as we speak, and he could file that with the SEC at any moment now. And we could wake up tomorrow with the headlines all over the financial media. I highly recommend you claim your stake before that happens. Because if you wait until it's on the front pages of the Wall Street Journal or on CNBC, the valuation of the company will be a lot higher, and you'll have missed out on the chance to make the biggest possible gains. Remember, this IPO, it can only happen one time, and that means today could be your last chance to partner with Elon. So please, click on that button to get started, and you'll get access to everything that you see on your screen. 12 months of my very best investment ideas. Every month, you'll get a brand new issue of the Near Future Report with my top way of playing artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, robotics, self-driving cars, and all the most exciting tech trends of our time. Bonus number 1, the biggest IPO of the decade, how to claim your stake in SpaceX. Inside this report, I'll tell you how to get started with as little as $500. Bonus report number 2 is called How to Profit from Elon Musk's Robotics Revolution. Elon Musk believes this is a $25 trillion opportunity, and I found an Elon supplier that I believe will end up playing a key role in this robotics revolution. Find out its name, ticker symbol, and all the details inside this report. You'll also get how to profit from the next NVIDIA. Inside, I'll tell you about a company that has just developed an AI chip that's 50 times more powerful than NVIDIA's H100 chip. Aside from all these special reports, you'll also get full 24/7 access to our members-only website. And that's where you can access all the issues, all the special reports, video updates, and our model portfolio, where you can see all the current open positions. And you'll get full support from my team. Please feel free to call or email them for any help that you need with your membership. But please remember, they cannot offer personalized investment advice. Please click below to get started because, like I showed you here today, you'll want to get in before Elon Musk files the IPO paperwork and makes headlines in Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal, and the Financial Times. This could happen at any moment. Look, this is your shot to partner with Elon Musk, the genius of our generation. Imagine telling your friends and family that you now own a piece of all of Elon's rockets. Imagine telling them that you have a stake in the company that will put astronauts on the moon and eventually Mars. Imagine owning a piece of the world's first global internet carrier before the IPO. That's the opportunity in front of you. I believe the IPO will happen within the next 12 months, and it could be the biggest payout of your life. But that will only be possible if you click the button to get started. I look forward to welcoming you to the Near Future Report. Thanks for watching, and remember, we have so much to look forward to.